This is Joanna from SaltSnap, and I'll be your host for today's Startup Meet. It's really nice to see you all young and energetic, dynamic people here. We are beyond excited to welcome you all for today's Startup Meet, organized by VertexOne Managed Workspace. We're also extremely honored and privileged to be hosting the guest speaker for this action-packed event today. So I'm guessing you might already know who our action-packed guest is, right? So she is a serial entrepreneur, a tech goddess, and the greatest inspiration for all the budding entrepreneurs in coastal Karnataka and beyond. I am very delighted to welcome in our midst none other than Mrs. Shylaja Rao, General Partner at Ventana Ventures, the first of its kind venture capitalist group from coastal Karnataka with a mission of uplifting passionate gaming founders in their pre-seed and seed stage. So ma'am, can I please have you on board? Can we have a massive round of applause for Ms. Shylaja Rao? So before we can actually kickstart this event and all the exciting things that we have in store for you, I want to take a moment to welcome every one of you gathered here along with our esteemed guests, Mr. Mukesh, the cluster head for the Mangaluru cluster of the Karnataka Digital Economy Mission, short form KDM. Through the Beyond Bengaluru initiative of the government of Karnataka, Mr. Mukesh is helping to build a solid IT ecosystem in this region. Prior to KDM, he was working with the Ministry of Education, Government of India. So can we give a huge round of applause for Mr. Mukesh? Next, we have with us Mrs. Poornima Nayak. She is a chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Mrs. Poornima has a decade-long association with Ernst & Young, and she has deep expertise in the income tax laws. She has also authored various research papers, provided thought leadership, and facilitated a number of tax events and sessions during her tenure at Ernst & Young. Can we have a huge round of applause for Mrs. Poornima? So before we begin, I would like to call upon Mr. Mukesh to step on the podium and give a few words to this wonderful audience gathered here today. So, Mr. Mukesh.
Thank you. First of all, I think I'd like all of you for being here, and also Joanna, thanks for the wonderful introduction. So, I come from KDM, as already she has mentioned, Karnataka Digital Economy Mission. So, what KDM is, I'll give you just a brief introduction. KDM is formed actually by the industry and the government of Karnataka. It's a unique model actually, where government holds only 49% stake and 51% stake held by the industry bodies. So we are actually kind of a bridge between government and the industry, where we facilitate policy making, attract investment, and all these kind of things in the digital tech space. So through this, we have a government of Karnataka. There is a key initiative which is Beyond Bengaluru. So I head the Mangaluru cluster, which Mangaluru, Udupi, Uttara Kannada, and Pune belongs to this kind of this cluster. So there are similar 3 clusters in Karnataka. So where government of Karnataka is actually promoting development of IT industry. Because as of now, the Mangaluru is crowded, and if not now, I think in the next 5-10 years, so that there is an infrastructure problem. To solve this, government of Karnataka is already taking ahead to promote Tier 2. So with this initiative, we are actually having this Beyond Bengaluru program. Through this, we run a lot of schemes and incentives and other stuff to the startups especially. So just to give brief, we work in 5 verticals, where actually startup and innovations, ESBM, and also ITBPM, GCC, Talent Accelerator, and one is Beyond that. So just to highlight on startup, through KDM actually we can help you with connect with the VCs, as already one she's sitting here, and also in Bangalore VC circle, where the startup from here to 6. So the thing is that they have everything, tech, knowledge, everything. But the thing is that we lack in networking and other stuff. So through KDM, we can help you and connect with the right person, right mentorship, right collaboration, all these things kind of things are there. Also, if you are looking for talent and which courses, so that also will help you. I think there are many other things we do. For the lack of time, I think I'll end here. So after this, if you have any suggestions, clarification, or just want to say hi, hello, I'm available here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mukesh. So we'll definitely have some time to have a chat with our guests. Alright, so now it's time to come down to the nitty-gritty part of basically the purpose of the startup meet, right? So it's about the presentation and pitch, which I'm sure you all are aware of. So to brief you more on this, the objective of this event is to provide the most promising startup among all the entries a platform to pitch and present their company to this vibrant audience. We are also excited to welcome on stage Suthe E-Commerce India Private Limited, an e-commerce platform focused on providing access to local sellers for Tier 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 cities. Suthe has emerged as the winner among all the entries, personally handpicked by the team at VertexOne, Mrs. Shailaja Rao as well, for their business model and their incredible solutions in the e-commerce space. So can we have a massive round of applause for the winning team, Suthe E-Commerce. I would also like to take a moment to wholeheartedly thank all the companies who shared their pitch with us. You guys were absolutely equally competent and gave tough competition to this company as well. A big thank you to Flowing Corporation, Affinity, Dave Foods, Fago Software and Online Delivery LLP, Falcon Realty, Microdegree, Tinker Space and Eco Choice Naturals. So let's give a round of applause for these companies as well. So now I believe it's time to invite Suthe E-Commerce to kindly step on the dais and present their startup, following which our chief guest, Mrs. Shylaja Rao, will be sharing her insights on how they can better their pitch and also tips to get funded. So let's give it up for Suthe.
Is basically we are creating a hyper-local e-commerce model. Unlike the B2B or the B2C companies, we have seen Udaan, JioMart, Amazon, Flipkart. Okay, we're not that. What we are trying to do is we are trying to help the local offline stores, which is called as basically the uncategorized or unorganized business. Okay, we are trying to help them. We are trying to bring them online. One. Okay, the second thing is we are trying to change the conventional way of supply chain business, what has been done currently. Also for the B2C, what we are trying to do is we are trying to keep the products within the same tier city rather than it coming from another tier city. So we are trying to onboard as many number of offline stores possible. What they will do is they will act as a warehouse or a dark store for us, and in turn, anybody placing an order online for a B2C, the products are available within the tier city, so we'll be able to cater them the same day or the next day. Basically, my name is Praveen. I'm the founder and CEO of Suthe. Saudamani is the CTO. She's got around 11 years of experience. Bhupinder Singh, I'm afraid he is not here today. He's the chief advisor. He's been an ex-co-founder, and also he's from IITK. And I've got around 14 years of experience. We are trying to target around 500 million users here and 400k stores all over India. We are targeting basically tier 2 and below cities. And parallelly, we're going to work on the tier 1 cities as well, because tier 1 cities have already got exhausted, as a friend said. The capex is going to be around 1 CR. The OPEX, basically for the product build and onboarding of vendors, sellers, etc., will cost us around 2.4 CR, and the marketing and the advertising cost would be around 6 CR. And this is what we are trying to.
So you mentioned that you're raising, currently about 10 CR.
Yeah,
have you raised any funds?
No, we are bootstrapped at the moment. Okay. We are trying to raise 10 CR, which we need for the entire activity.
And how much have you spent as on date?
Probably around 20 lakhs
20
so far.
lakhs. Okay. And when you say milestone 1, 2 and 3 over here, is there a timeline that you have for this?
So basically it depends on the fundraise at the moment. Okay, so if we are successfully able to raise the 10 CR what we want, it immediately starts. The work immediately starts from recruiting people, because we need to build the team initially.
Right.
We need around 21 people to start off this activity,
Okay.
and have the team ready. They'll be onboarded, and the milestone 2 begins, and that's when we build the product. We try and onboard people onto our platform, and then the milestone 3 is basically the go-to-market startup.
First look at it, 10 CR as an ask at this stage without having even a product ready seems higher.
Absolutely.
So our recommendation would be relook at what your ask is, and the marketing and the ad spends that you've quoted again sounds on the higher side. You should break this down and go for the smaller round initially. Have your product ready, and then go for an MVP which is tested in the market before you spend a lot of money on the marketing.
Right.
So that would be one advice from our end. Also, you touched upon the topic of team. So how big is your team, you said, right now?
At the moment, we have 3 of us.
Okay, and that is you and
me, my wife, who is the CTO. Okay, she's going to be taking care of the technical.
okay.
Bhupender is the advisor.
Okay, and all of you are full time?
Yes. At the moment, we are part-time. We are also doing our primary jobs, and
okay, so that's another aspect that you need to think about.
True.
As an investor, they would expect you to be full-time into the company. If you're going to be part-time and go for fundraise, that essentially may not be well appreciated by investors. So that is something that you need to plan. So do I assume that your wife are founders of the company?
I am the sole founder. Okay, she's going to be working on salary. Okay, so her role is a technical role based on the roles.
So on the cap table, only you are there?
I hold 100% of this.
Okay, that's another feedback for you. Typically, as investors, we would want a balanced team.
True.
So a sole founder is typically not something as a welcome note. We would want to see at least 2 or 3 people, because you want to see the balance in the team. Someone comes with a marketing expertise, someone is a tech guy, another person comes with an operations expertise. So that brings a balance into the team. So typically, we would advise you, maybe you should revisit that aspect as well from your side. One other advice is try to have your content very precise and crisp. There's too much of text, that is very distracting to someone who's reading. Whenever an investor looks at a deck, he or she is not going to spend more than 10 to 15 minutes maximum. And if they get too much of text, then they easily get distracted.
Absolutely.
And the loss of interest would definitely be there. So that's one advice to you.
Ms. Shailaja, what do you think about today's pitch presentation from Suthe e-commerce?
First of all, I would like to say hello to all the wonderful audience that we have here. It's great to see, so many people, a lot of that I can see in the crowd. So great to see the vibrancy is what I would like to, first convey. Coming to the pitch that is presented, I think, it was a great pitch that was, presented by the founder. But yes, it has a few aspects that need a little more finer refinement. There was a lot of questions around the business model that were raised by the audience. Some were very, very relevant questions, I would say. So maybe they should consider addressing that more concisely and precisely in their pitch deck. Competitor analysis, the pricing aspects, how it is going to affect the end user or the stockists whom they are going to onboard onto their platform, what benefit they get. All these aspects need to be articulated better. And we also conveyed about how the fund raise itself needs to be broken better in terms of the runway that is required. So these are some inputs that are straight inputs to them, and they can consider improvising on these aspects in their deck.
All right. So, ma'am, what tips and suggestions would you provide to the audience here? Because I'm sure they would like to understand what it is like to give a pitch, especially when they are going for a round of funding.
Yeah, one is, your pitch deck should be very, very clear. The contents in your pitch deck should not be too texty. Don't keep too much of content in it. Keep it as bullet points. Because like I was telling you, the investor is not going to spend more than 10 to 15 minutes maximum is their attention span. So if you're going to write too much of text, then the message is missed. And what you're trying to solve as a problem through your business needs to be articulated very, very clearly, concisely. That should be the starting point of your pitch deck. Followed on by what is your team composition, and like I mentioned earlier on also, solo founders are generally not preferred. It builds a lot of dependency typically, and also it cannot be that one person knows all, right? You might know bits and pieces, but when you get into the depth, you always need a balanced team amongst yourselves. So making a team of 2 to 3 people is always advisable. One comes as if it's a tech-based solution, have one person who is, a tech specialist, another person who probably brings in, marketing specialization, another person could probably be good at, finance or operations or whatever you think is, as a quality or as a skill you miss or you don't have, complemented through another person. So this kind of a balanced team approach is typically appreciated, and you guys need to be full-time. Part-time gigs typically is not appreciated. I know it's a loop. Fund milega to, I can do I can jump in full-time. But then investors are investors, and they get confidence only with the aspect that you are full-time into it. And their typical question would be, if you don't have confidence from your end into jumping it full-time, why should I build that confidence in you? So that is their approach. We can debate right or wrong, but then that's how it is. And I think it's fair to have that thought process. So these are typical things that you need to have. And also a lot of times we miss on recording in the pitch deck as to what is our target audience that we are addressing. So who is your precise, concise target group that you are trying to address? You may have a problem statement that you're trying to solve, but for whom are you solving? Is there a specific age group? Is there a gender for whom you are solving the problem? All these things need to be very, very clearly articulated. And also mention what is the market size. There could be a market that this business caters to, and to go back and say I'm going to address and capture the whole market doesn't make sense, because definitely somebody has already done that in the past and he would have captured business already. So what percentage you think you will be able to capture through your business needs to be articulated, so that the investor gets a sense of how or what is the potential of that business in terms of the market capture, right? And lastly, also important is to give a projection forecast also. Show at least a 3-year projection in your pitch deck. Kind of gives an indication. When I say projections, first of all, what is your monetization model? That is key. How are you going to make money through your business? Is it through subscription? Is it through ads? Multiple ways to do your business. So first of all, what is your monetization model, and through that, what is the financial projections that you're giving? But don't try to put the entire business plan there. Keep it very, very concise, crisp numbers for them to just get a glimpse of how your business possibly will look like 3 years down the line. So that is something that anybody would look for. And competitor analysis, a lot of times we want to shy away from it, but that is here to stay, right? You are not going to solve something unique that doesn't exist in the world. Somebody has already thought of it, somebody probably has found a solution to it. So to go with the notion that there is no competition exists, I think would not be the right approach. So be brave, figure out who your competitor is, and be conscious of what they are doing, how are they trying to solve the problem, and what is it that you have an edge over them, and keep a close watch on what mistakes they are doing, and then try not to do those mistakes. That is how you can convince your investors to invest in you. So these are, I think, a few important aspects that you need to take care of in your pitch deck. But don't make it too lengthy, don't make it too contenty. That's something that we would definitely, advise. Yeah.
So I think this was like power-packed insights, right? So I could say a couple of you guys writing down the tips. So it's nice to actually understand all the aspects of what it is to get into a startup or start something of your own. But coming to you, ma'am, we would love to know more about you. So you are doing absolutely great work by giving startup founders a leg up in the gaming space. Have you guys heard of 99 Games? Alright, just question. So we would like to know more about you. So could you tell us more about how you grew up, where did you study, about your education?
So basically, I belong to this region. So I was just telling the team here that it's difficult to pinpoint which place I belong to because I've lived in multiple places. Originally born here close to Udupi. I belong to Puttur Sulya, if you're familiar with that place. So that's where my grandparents were. But we never lived there. My father was a banker. And as a banker, he would get transferable, he had a transferable job, so we would keep shifting from one city to another. So I've lived in multiple cities, Kolkata, Hyderabad, and then larger part of my life, at least from a schooling side, I studied in Chennai. And then post that, we shifted back to Mangalore, and I'm a student of St. Agnes here in Mangalore. I did my 10th and my 11th and 12th from St. Agnes. Post that, I think you're at a juncture where you have to decide what your career has to be. Back those days and even today, I think things have not changed much, but things have been better today.
Yeah.
Your career options are limited. You either become a doctor, engineer, or in those days, CAs were, considered to be very brilliant, in terms of their academics. So anyone who's brilliant, typically they would take that as a career option. So the way you think and the way you consider as a career growth typically was constrained to these. Today kids have much more options. But honestly, I wanted to be a doctor. And I didn't even get a seat, but for some reasons I had to shift my plans. And I ended up being an engineer, and I did my engineering from NMA MIT Tech. I did my computer science engineering, and then my career started from there. Yeah, post that.
Wow. I wanted to be a doctor as well. PCMB student.
Same page.
Alright. So ma'am, how was your personal journey like that led you to what you are today? Could you tell us more on that?
Yeah, so I think like everybody else, I had a very normal childhood. I didn't have any aspirations that I'm going to do something or I'm going to start a company, didn't have all those kind of aspirations. I was always an active person. I was very focused on my studies, definitely, but along with that I was interested in music, sports. But what I was very clear and always doing was I was very hardworking. I've always been focused on my work. That is something that has helped because that I think is very, very key to any activity that you take up. Unless you put in hard work, you're sincere in your work, results are going to be difficult to achieve. So that's something that I've always tried to focus on, and I've never shied away from taking up any new responsibilities. I come from a very clear tech background of be computer science engineer, but once I started my career, I started as usual as a software engineer. But back then, I don't know whether you're aware of my background in terms of my career. So I worked for Robosoft. Robosoft is a services company, software services company based in Udupi. And this company was started by Rohit Bhatt, who is the founder of the company. And I joined very, very early in the journey. So they had come for campus interview. And in those early days, I joined the company back in '98. And we started, I think I was the third or the fourth member in the team. That early I joined the company, and we were incubated in the Science and Technology Entrepreneurs Park of NITK. That is where my career started. And along the journey, I realized that you should not avoid any opportunities that come your way, and took up every opportunity. Being a small company, you didn't have an HR, you didn't have a legal, you didn't have an admin. So I ended up doing all those roles at any given point of time. That's how I started. And over a period of time, I realized that I'm better at operations than tech. So I moved away from tech, core tech, and focused on these aspects. So that's been my journey in terms of my career.
That's great. I think I can relate to some extent because I'm also a computer science engineer graduate. And I'm completely off, I'm doing something beyond the scope of that. Yeah. So ma'am, as a venture capitalist, what advice would you give to someone starting out as an entrepreneur or a founder of a startup?
Founder's journey, and I'm sure many would relate to here, because I'm sure many of you are probably running a business for many years now. A founder's journey is very, very difficult. So you have to be at it always, okay? You cannot be a person who is looking at results in a short span of time. For you to build a brand, for you to get the results, it really takes a lot of time, and what is required is patience at your end as a founder. So unless you show that persistence, sincerity at work, and these days we hear a lot of noise about how companies mess up with numbers and give wrong reports. So avoid all those things. Be ethical in whatever you do. I think being sincere, honest, being very, very transparent with your business, I think that is what is going to yield you results. Else you might achieve something in the short span, but in the long run you're going to lose out. And it only makes you more vulnerable, makes it more difficult for you to start yet again, because people would have already, attached a stigma that he or she goofed up numbers. So that is something we would want to advise everybody. Stay focused and grab every opportunity that comes your way. Don't hesitate, but be clear on what your goal is and keep at it. Failures will definitely be there. But you need to treat that as a challenge and figure out how I'm going to solve this and get to the next stage. When you are probably a small company, probably a 0 to 20, the problems that you face or the challenges that you face are different. Whereas when you are probably 20 to 50, it's a different set of challenges that you will face. So challenges will always be there along your way. But what is going to be important is the way you look at it creatively and solve them and move to increasing your business at the end of the day. So that is, I think, what is important.
That's very nice. That's very nice to know. So, considering that you were working at Robosoft and now you also have Ventana Ventures, so would you have any success habits or anything, any routine or any habit that you, or any value that you keep up to every single day? Something that you think the audience would like to know.
So, I don't have any mantra as success habits as such, but what is important is I think all of us need to understand that change is constant, right? If I think that I know everything and there is nothing for me to learn, then that's, I think, the end of things. So every journey of mine till date has taught me something or the other. And we learn from each other. Every time we meet a person, we get inspired. Very, very recently, I was at an event in Hyderabad. It was a gaming event. Because we are a gaming fund, we obviously were looking and talking to a lot of gaming founders. And what surprised us was here was a 21-year-old kid from Delhi. And the amount of precision with which he was talking, I was astonished. At 21, I didn't even know what I was doing with my life, you know. So they were like amazing, and it was very, inspiring. And very, very recently, I also met a person who is into agri-tech. And again, there were two kids. I call them kids because they're really young. They've just passed out of their college. And the amount of knowledge that they have about everything, about their business, they had the numbers, instantly, and they were able to explain their business model. They were very, very clear about how to go about funding, what exactly, conversion nodes mean, safe nodes mean. I mean, they had all definitions. Probably it was looking like they were taking classes for me, So that way, I think you keep getting inspired by meeting people. So I think learning is one key element all of us need to focus on. Read a lot, and like I mentioned earlier, definitely be hardworking. That is what will give you results at the end of the day. So these are some of the things that I always try and focus on. So are there any book recommendations from your end? Quite a lot of them. I'm sure many would have already read probably, but some of my favorites would be Good to Great by Jim Collins. That's something that is very, very inspiring. Then there is The Lean Startup, 0 to 1. So there are quite a few books that are very inspiring. And I think as founders, what is important is there are always days when you feel low. At the end of the day, you're all human beings. We're all human beings, right? So you can't be happy every day. Yeah. So there are things which go right in business. There are things that go wrong in business. And when we meet people, or we attend these events, or we attend any, or we listen to any podcast, what are we trying to learn from it? We are trying to learn that keep going. People have seen worse failures, and your problem is smaller than that, and you can bounce back and solve it. I think this is what keeps us motivated, and we should constantly try and read books, listen to other people, other leaders, and constantly try to keep ourselves motivated at the end of the day.
So I'm sure the audience have questions popping up. So I request Harshita to coordinate so that the audience can shoot your questions.
But that's I'm not going to start. When we were starting, it was not at all option. We have to bootstrap.
Right.
So if I had an option, I would have been a different person, I believe. But I feel bootstrapping is the best thing because previously 3 founders we got doing bootstrapping, they have reached a global audience. They have into multiple.
That is what I mentioned to someone who asked this question also earlier, that if you ask me personally, if you're very strong about your idea, if you feel very strongly about it, don't wait for funding. Because funding is not an easy exercise. You will be chasing investors, and one investor is not going to sit and say yes to you. There will be 20 names that you need to reach out. It's not easy to get their time. So it is a very painful process in itself. Okay? If you put that much of energy and time into building the product instead, okay, by probably take some help from your family members, take them into confidence, and if they are able to support you, then nothing like it. You should definitely get started, and if you can remain that for a long time, then best for you, because then you have a vision for your product or your business, and that remains undiluted. The moment you have an investor, one more important thing which I wanted to highlight is don't just take an investor on board just because he or she is giving you money. Okay? A lot of times what happens is investors will come in and they would say, please scale nahi kar raha hai, we need faster growth, so change your business plan. Change your, do this, do that. They will start giving you advices. They probably will not have the right background, but they may give you that kind of advice. That can be dangerous for your business, It may work or it may not work, or you may not feel very strongly about it. As an investor, they'll come and give you advice, but ultimately you are the one who's going to run the business. So unless you're convinced about that change, it becomes very difficult. They're already into your system. So that is why getting an investor, the right investor, is also equally important for your business.
I believe we are done with the question answers. Can I get a thumbs up if you enjoyed this startup meet? Even both the thumbs up would be good. Alright, so thank you for being such a great audience. But truly, this startup meet has been one of a kind. Don't you think so? Yeah. So the ideas and thoughts shared here have been invaluable. That's also right. Yes? Alright. But then it's time to wrap up.
I'm very much thankful to all of you. To introduce myself, me, Mukesh and Mangal, we three run this Vertex workspace and we have a big team behind this. I thank all my team members putting this show on today. Also to SaltSnap's team for arranging this interview. We have a formal vote of thanks that Mahesh will take up. We have an announcement that next session, Startup Meet, we are also trying to build this community. So this is our 4th meetup. So we are trying our best to level up this culture of meeting up and this community building. So we need all your feedbacks, all your involvement into this. The community building that cannot be brought in by one person or one team. So everybody has to involve into this.
I now request Guru sir to give a token of thanks to Mrs. Shailaja Rao. I now request Mr. Satish Shanoy to give a token of appreciation to Mrs. Poornima. And I now request Mukesh sir to give Mukesh sir a token of gratitude. So, can you give yourself a tap on the back or maybe applaud for yourself for being such a wonderful audience? This is Joanna signing off for today, and I wish to see you in the upcoming meets as well. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.